everyone, and welcome to a rather interesting A Look At video on this rather interesting A2Z smoke detector. It's an optical smoke detector, and it isn't made for fire alarm systems. It's actually made for wired burglar alarm systems, which is quite strange considering its age. It was manufactured in... Oh, you can't see it with the base on. I'll remove that right now. So here you can see it was manufactured in 1999, and that it is 12 volts, which is typical of a burglar alarm system. It's also wired sort of like a PIR. Well, it's wired exactly like a PIR. So you have your 12 volt input here, and it has to be 12 volts. I think you will probably blow the... I don't think it has any sort of range. 10 to 15 is the range, actually, sorry. 10 to 15 volts DC, so that's the maximum minimum. Anything above that and you'll blow it. So I can't actually put this on my fire alarm system, which doesn't really matter because that's not what it's designed for anyway. But it would sort of break it if I put it on there, because the voltage that I use for my detectors on my fire alarm system is actually 24 volts. And that would be slightly problematic for this detector. Anyway, here we have the A2Z logo. Oh god. There's a cat. Very annoying. Anyway. He's trapped in here now. Anyway, back to the detector. So this is the head. It's quite small, actually. It's a bit smaller than a Series 65, which is sort of the standard for British fire alarm smoke detectors. So if I try putting this on a squash knee here, you can see it's just a bit too small, and it wouldn't exactly go on, but I think with those mounting holes, I think they line up, actually. Yeah, they appear to line up, but so I could put that on the sounder base, but I don't think it would look particularly smart. Turning our attention back to the head, there you can see the optical chamber. It's quite deep, so it's deeper than the Series 65s, but it is obviously less wide. And it's also really hard to get on the base, which is quite annoying. And if you have it lined up wrong, then it sort of sits like on an angle. So if you try turning it hard whilst it's like that, you would damage the probably damage the plastic on the base, or you'd damage one of these sort of legs. Unlike the Series 65 detectors, or most British / European smoke detectors, they usually use the electrical contacts in order to connect to the base, and that's what it sort of bayonets onto. And it also, on the Series 65, I think it also uses the plastic a bit, but I can't remember. I haven't really got a reference here, because I should have gotten my Series 65, but it's a bit late now. I can't exactly go get it. But with this one, it uses these little sort of feet to bayonet onto at the base, and it just uses these little sort of nubs as contact points for the electrical, for the different electrical things. But yeah, it also has this sticker on top. I'm assuming that has nothing to do with it, because, well, if they have different models of these, sort of like, I don't know, because these are obviously quite uncommon, but if they have different models of these, then maybe different ones, such as Heat, will have a different coloured sticker to let the user know that what kind of detector they have. So, but obviously the silver must tell us that it's an optical detector, because you can see the protection for the optical chamber there. And if you look, hold on, let me find it. But if you look closely into one of the parts of this detector, you can actually see a relay. There it is. You can't see it on camera, sadly. But there is a relay here. And that is because intruder alarm systems, or burglar alarm systems, or whatever you want to call them, they use just regular sort of normally closed switches, and when the switch opens in whatever component you're using, that lets the panel know that it needs to go into alarm. So these are the two terminals that you would use, these two, when you were wiring it up to an intruder panel. Well, if you have sort of a rarer type of intruder panel that uses normally open terminals, which I know some do, then obviously you would use these two, but most of the time it's these two. And your 12 volts is on a pair of separate wires. So this is quite a bit different to regular detectors that actually use just two wires coming in, and then when you activate the detector, it sort of changes in resistance, and it therefore doesn't need any sort of relay. But this one's really interesting because it does have a built-in relay. Anyway, I'm going to demonstrate it for you right now by putting it back on the thing, which is really hard to do, so I will stop the video. There we go, it's now back on, and you'll notice in a minute that it'll do a fake poll. Now this is sort of like a comfort LED sort of thing, because this is most likely going to be installed in a house. Well, it would have if it was new. I'm not going to install it anywhere. Oh, there we go. It polls green as well, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it's like a comfort LED just to let you know, your smoke detector's working. You don't need to replace it. It's fine. And this here on the other side is quite interesting because this isn't a commercial fire alarm smoke detector. It actually has a test button. It's literally just a wired home smoke detector without a buzzer in it. So if I press this, you'll hear the relay click, and obviously the LED goes red because it's in fire now. And if I had sort of a circuit with a sounder and a battery hooked up to this, then it would it'd start going off. Sorry, Jock, you want to leave? Goodbye then. So yeah, it's currently in latching mode. Now I will demonstrate the other mode, but I'm just gonna turn the plug off to reset it. So once you disconnect power, turn it back on again, it comes out of alarm and stays out unless it reactivates. But I haven't sprayed it just yet, so it shouldn't reactivate, obviously, unless I have a faulty detector. Anyway, I'm going to take it off its base and show you how to change it from latching to momentary. Sorry. So because this detector is quite old, it doesn't have dip switches. It just has this sort of little jumper thing here. And it only has two settings. It either has a jumper or it doesn't have a jumper. So, yes, it's just two pins. And I'll put it on the base just to demonstrate the what it does without a jumper in. So we can see here that power is being applied to it because it'll poll. There we go. Well, it's not really a poll, it's a fake poll, but so we'll use the test button. So you can see as soon as I let go of the test button, it unlatches and it just doesn't stay in alarm, which I suppose would be quite useful for intruder panels, because I don't know if they turn off the I'm not really that knowledgeable on intruder alarm systems, but I think they disconnect power from the devices when they reset, but I'm not sure. I would assume that they did, but if for whatever reason it doesn't, this is the mode that you would put it on, because then you don't have to fiddle about with it and take it off its base if it's been tested or knocked, because this is a really easy button to press. It could get knocked quite easily, like, yeah, it could do. And obviously that would set off a very loud burglar alarm if it was knocked, which would be slightly problematic. Anyway, I'm actually going to get some spray now and show the detector part of it working. So I've acquired some spray, and we'll give it a test. So it's still in the mode that I left it on before, with the jumper out. Should go off. There we go. and then as soon as it thinks that the amount of smoke is below its sort of threshold, it goes off. So when it doesn't think there's a fire, and once it's sort of cleared out, that's when it stops going off. But when it has the little jumper in, it will never turn off without power being disconnected from it, which is how normal detectors tend to work on fire alarm systems. So just to make this video slightly longer, I'm actually just going to give it another spray, but this time with the jumper in, just to demonstrate the fact that it won't turn off with the jumper in. You'll see this detector is quite sensitive, and if you notice, the LED goes green just before it activates, because I think it has some sort of verification thing so that it can reduce false alarms, which is good, because if it's in a house, it's not exactly going to be, well, it's not guaranteed to be installed by someone who has experience in fire alarm systems, and they could put it in a place where false alarms are quite likely to happen. So if they can reduce false alarms as much as possible in the actual detector, then that's great, because it's likely to be installed in a place where false alarms are present. Anyway, disconnect the power from that, and you can actually hear the relay click. I think it's just a normal 12-volt small relay. I don't think it really is made for much ampage, because it would only be used with burglar alarm panels, and I don't know the voltages on burglar alarm panels. I know that 12 volts is normally used for the that pole with some residual current there. Yeah, but I know 12 volts is used for the sounders on burglar alarms usually, and obviously it's used to actually power the devices. But I don't know what the what voltage is used for sort of the relay thing. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video on the A2Z optical smoke detector made for burglar alarm systems. It's a really interesting device. It's quite advanced for its age, in my opinion. It has a lot of features, actually, and it looks a bit like the older Apollo detectors. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and goodbye.